What's up, everyone? The stories today are the kind where you finish reading and just sit there for a second. Subscribe if you want more of that, and let's get into it. I found where my wife hid our spare keys, and I'm genuinely afraid of her now, 31-year-old male. A story about what happens when the person you trust does something so deliberate, so intentional, that it completely reshapes how you see them, when normal reveals itself to be something darker underneath. This isn't about a bad day or a misunderstanding. This is the moment when the world beneath someone's feet shifts. I'm 31. I've been married to my wife for 8 years. We met in college, got engaged after 3 years of dating, and I thought we had a completely normal, stable marriage. No major fights, we had routines, I trusted her completely. Then a week ago, I found the candles. I was looking for our spare house keys after locking myself out Saturday morning. Checked all the usual spots: kitchen drawer, the nightstand, the dish by the front door, nothing. So I started opening cabinets in the living room, and that's when I noticed something odd about the decorative candles on the shelf. We have a lot of candles around the house. My wife likes them, but these 5 felt heavier than normal. When I picked one up, I heard something shift inside. I took it to the kitchen and hollowed it out. Inside was one of our spare keys, wrapped in cloth and dried herbs. I checked the other 4 candles. All of them had spare keys, all wrapped the same way, cloth and herbs. But the candles themselves were covered in hand-carved symbols, not printed, carved into the wax, intricate patterns. This wasn't accidental. This wasn't a whim. This was planned. This was deliberate. This was something she'd sat down and executed on purpose. I had no idea why. And now he had to ask her. Had to understand what this meant and why she'd done it. He didn't know yet that asking would be the moment everything fell apart. But something had shifted in him that day. The discovery of one candle was deeply unsettling on its own. But finding them deliberately hidden, scattered throughout their home, meant something entirely different. He'd moved past shock into something colder. That night, after she went to bed, he needed to understand the full scope. He started looking through the house methodically, systematically. I went through the bedroom first. Under the nightstand, 2 more candles. Same symbols carved into the wax. Same ritual pattern. One still smelled fresh, recently lit. In the bathroom behind her skincare stuff, another one. Smaller, more intricate. The symbols weren't random scratches. They were intentional, deliberate. Each candle had the same core design with slight variations, but unmistakably the same ritual intent. The living room had 3. 3 sitting on the bookshelf behind family photos like they belonged among our normal things. I pulled them all down at once and held them together. 7 candles, seeing the same pattern repeat across all of them. My hands started shaking. The herbs inside were different colors. Dried flowers, sage, rosemary maybe. Other things I couldn't identify. But I understood what this meant. This wasn't a one-time impulse or a quirky moment. This was practiced. This was methodical. This was repeated over months, maybe longer. I found 7 total that night. 7 candles with 7 carved patterns, each one a deliberate act, intention carved into wax. 7 vessels prepared with ritual herbs, all hidden throughout our home. All designed to bind me to her. All performed while I was completely unaware. 7 vessels scattered throughout their home, each one carefully placed. 7 acts of control performed in secret, hidden in plain sight among their normal life. The horror wasn't just that she believed in magic. It was that she'd actually done this, repeatedly, deliberately, with full, conscious intention to keep him from ever leaving her. When I started digging deeper, that's when the real horror set in. I pulled down every book from the bedroom shelves and found what she'd been reading. Binding rituals, lunar magic, sympathetic spell work, pages marked with sticky notes in her handwriting. And the journal. God, the journal was worse. She documented everything. Entry after entry with dates and what she called trigger points. March 15th. The day my mom called about her divorce, and I mentioned maybe talking to someone about us. April 2nd, when I asked if we should do marriage counseling. May 19th, my performance review at work where I got passed over for a promotion and came home quiet. every single moment where I seemed uncertain or where she felt the ground shifting under her. Next to each date, she'd written what ritual work she needed to do, what renewal meant. She had a whole system mapped out, and it was all methodical, all intentional. This wasn't something she did on impulse one afternoon. This was calculated over months. The internet didn't hold back on what this actually was. This is absolutely insane. Please tell me you're documenting all of this for the restraining order. Her refusal to see this as wrong and her belief in the binding is a massive escalation risk. Did your lawyer see the journal? That's direct evidence of premeditation, obsessive ideation, and intent to control. That should make the restraining order a formality. Did she ever tell you why candles specifically, or if she had a schedule to refresh the ritual? Like, was she planning to keep replacing them, or was there a final binding planned? She had the whole thing mapped out in her journal. Specific lunar phases when she needed to perform renewal rituals every full moon. And then she showed me this huge black candle the night before I left and told me it was for the final binding, to cement everything permanently. I think she was planning to escalate indefinitely. And that escalation detail, that's what sealed it. He couldn't put it off any longer. The conversation had to happen. She won't stop calling and showed up at my workplace. I asked her directly about the binding ritual. She didn't panic or get defensive. She just calmly explained. When my mom called a few weeks back mentioning her failed marriage, something broke in my wife. She became terrified I'd leave the same way my dad left. So she researched binding spells online, found instructions, gathered herbs, carved symbols, and performed the ritual herself. She genuinely believed it would work. She genuinely thought she was protecting our marriage. When I told her this was control disguised as magic, she didn't apologize. She called it a gesture of love. She said she was protecting me from myself. That conversation was almost 2 weeks ago. Since then, it's escalated in ways I didn't expect. She calls my work constantly. Yesterday, she showed up at my office lobby. She told my boss she was checking on me during a difficult time. She keeps texting, keeps insisting the ritual means I can't leave. I'm starting to realize just how deep this goes. This isn't a moment of panic. This is her genuine belief system. And I have no idea how to help someone who truly thinks they've magically bound you to them forever. The comments on this came fast, and they were brutal. The systematic planning makes it so much worse than if she'd just snapped once. Exactly. This wasn't a breakdown. She researched occult binding rituals, planned execution dates, prepared materials, performed the ritual, and then immediately began planning the next phase. That's calculated obsession dressed up in spiritual language, and it's terrifying. I'm genuinely concerned for your safety here. The fact that she's this calm about it and fully believes the ritual worked means she might get more obsessive if you try to move on. Do not let her near you. So OP had to make a choice. He couldn't unknow what his wife had done. Couldn't unsee the deliberate premeditation hiding in plain sight. She won't stop calling and showed up at my workplace. I filed for divorce the next week. I couldn't stay in that house anymore. Couldn't look at those candles without feeling sick. I moved in with my brother immediately and started the process with a lawyer about a restraining order. I genuinely didn't feel safe. I thought once she understood I was serious about leaving, she'd accept it. I was catastrophically wrong. She keeps calling. Different phone numbers, same message every single time. That the ritual worked, that I'm magically bound to her, that I'm going to come back because the binding is real and unbreakable. She showed up at my workplace last Tuesday. Security had to escort her out of the parking lot. She was standing there telling random employees that she could feel me trying to return to her through the magical connection, that it was only a matter of time. My boss pulled me aside afterward. I had to tell him everything. The restraining order is still in process. These things take time, but she keeps calling from different numbers. What terrifies me most is that she's not even angry about any of it. She's completely calm, utterly certain. Like she's waiting for something that's absolutely guaranteed to happen. Like the universe owes her my obedience. Comments on this thread saw exactly what the real danger was. The scariest part of your story is how rational she was when admitting it. That's not someone having a psychotic break, that's someone completely confident in their actions. This needs to be treated as a serious threat. Please update once you have that restraining order. And please consider whether she needs a psychiatric hold, because this level of delusion is genuinely dangerous. And here's what stays with you about this one: binding spells, love rituals, magical compulsion. They're just control dressed up with candles and herbs. The cage was never about magic. It was about one person deciding another person's life wasn't theirs to choose anymore. It's violation wearing a crown of romance. And that is a deeply human kind of evil. On to the next one. I, 22-year-old female, found a hospital record from childhood proving my older brother assaulted me, and my parents have always known and covered it up. Some memories don't come back willingly. They're buried so deep that your body forgets, even when your mind tries to hold on. But sometimes a trigger arrives without warning. A document, a date, a single detail that cracks open what you've been protecting yourself from. And when it happens, there's no going back to unknowing. I was going through old boxes in my parents' basement when I found it. A hospital discharge document from 1997. My name at the top. Fractured radius. Listed under cause of injury, accidental fall. And something just clicked. I've had a scar on my left wrist my whole life. Never knew where it came from. My parents always just said it was from some childhood accident I was too young to remember clearly. But reading that date, April 1997, suddenly I could see it all happening again. I'm 6 years old. I'm in our basement. My older brother has my arm twisted behind my back. He keeps twisting and I'm screaming at him to stop, screaming so hard my throat burns, but he just keeps going until I feel something crack and the pain becomes everything. I hit the ground. I remember my mother appearing in the doorway upstairs. I remember him telling her it was an accident, that I fell, and I remember her just nodding. Not saying a word, just nodding. I don't remember the accident, because there was no accident. I remember screaming. I was 6. This memory crash landing back into consciousness felt like the end of something. But she didn't know yet that it was really just the beginning of something far worse, of learning just how deeply her family had conspired to keep her silent. With the hospital discharge paper still in her hands, OP decided she needed answers. She was done wondering. It was time to ask. I confronted my mother in the kitchen. I laid the document on the table and asked her straight, what happened in 1997? Why was my arm broken? And my mom just cracked. She couldn't hide it anymore. She admitted everything. My brother broke my arm on purpose. He twisted it deliberately until it snapped when I was 6. And they knew. My parents knew the entire time what he'd done, and they covered it up. They never reported it, never made him face any consequence. Instead, they protected his reputation, kept it quiet, made it disappear. My mom kept saying it would have ruined his future, that he was just a troubled teen, that bringing it up would destroy the family. Like my safety, my trauma, my entire childhood built on a lie. That was the price they were willing to pay to keep him safe. The person who brought me into the world, who was supposed to protect me above all else, chose to protect him instead. That moment changed everything. Not just the fact of what happened, but the fact that her parents had always known. They didn't forget. They didn't misremember a childhood accident. They made a choice, a deliberate, conscious choice, to protect her brother's future over her safety. Every birthday cake, every hug, every time her mother said, "I love you," all of it was undercut by this secret. Every fond memory suddenly felt like it was built on quicksand. And in that moment, something shifted fundamentally. The woman who nursed her through every scraped knee, who sang to her at night, that same woman had looked at evidence of her 6-year-old self being hurt and said nothing. For 16 years, she'd said nothing. But then the memory won't stop replaying. Over and over. And the questions start. I keep thinking about that basement. About my mother's face when I asked her why she never told me. Why? That word just cycles through my head. Why did you keep this? Why does his reputation matter more than my safety? Why didn't anyone say sorry? She said something about protecting the family and my brother's potential, like somehow his future was worth more than the fact that he broke my arm and nobody even said sorry. Nothing. just 6 years old with a cast and a lie. I've been going through old photos now, and they all feel wrong. That camping trip where he helped me build a fort, was that guilt? Or was everyone just pretending? My dad won't even look at me. He's angry at me for finding the record, like I chose this, like I deliberately dug up this secret to destroy something. But what was I supposed to do? See my own name on a hospital discharge and just forget? The real spiral started when my mom mentioned his engagement. That's when I asked about his fiance's kids, and she said he was just troubled as a teenager. Like that's an explanation. Like being troubled stops when you grow up. The comments came fast. That hospital record is not a memory, it's evidence. You have proof. Your mother's willingness to protect him is her choice, but you don't have to make that choice. Your brother got 15 years of protection while you got silence and a broken bone explained away. It's time he got consequences instead. Tell his fiancée, those children deserve protection from someone who has proven he hurts people. Your brother's life is not more important than their safety. I found her on Facebook. I keep drafting the message, but I freeze, because I know what happens next. My brother denies it, my parents take his side, and I'm the person who destroyed the family over something from childhood. But you're right. Those kids don't get to be sacrificed so my parents can pretend this didn't happen. And things were building toward a choice she couldn't avoid much longer. A few weeks passed, and then OP had something to tell everyone, something that would break the family entirely. She found out and left him. My family is blaming me. So my brother got engaged to a woman with 2 young daughters. I found out from an email my mom forwarded like it was happy family news. 2 days later, I called her and asked, "How can you let him be a stepfather without telling his fiancée what he did to me?" She got quiet, then said, "That was so long ago. He was a troubled teenager. It would ruin his life." I asked, "What about your grandchildren? What if he touches them?" She didn't answer, just silence. Then she said I was being unfair, that he was different now. But he wasn't. He was the same person who broke my arm and let everyone who knew it just move on. No consequences. So I did what my family now calls unforgivable. I called her, the fiancée. I told her about the hospital record, about what he did, about my parents covering it up. I told her she had a right to know who she was bringing into her daughters' lives. I gave her the discharge number so she could verify it. The next morning, my mom called screaming, said I'd destroyed everything, that it was private family business. My brother's fiancée left him the same day and took her daughters with her. Now my whole family is saying I've ruined his life, that he deserves a second chance, that it's been over 20 years. But nobody's asking what almost happened to those 2 little girls, or what their mother deserves to know. And the internet had plenty to say. Check your state's statute of limitations on assault. Even if you can't press charges now, documenting this with law enforcement creates a paper trail that protects you later. Before you do anything, please talk to a trauma-informed therapist. You're processing 2 layers of betrayal here, the original assault and your parents' active concealment. You need support to navigate this. This is the right call. OP needs to heal and understand her own trauma before she takes on the responsibility of protecting other people. Her parents' gaslighting has probably made her feel like she's overreacting or responsible for managing everyone's feelings. But there was no escaping the weight of what came next. By the time OP held that hospital record in her hands, there was only one person left who didn't know the truth. The woman about to marry her brother. 2 young girls living in that house already. And OP faced an impossible choice that would define her, no matter which way she went. Warn her and lose everything, or stay silent and live knowing 2 children might be in danger. She found out and left him. My family is blaming me. I couldn't stay silent. I contacted his fiancée through a mutual friend and told her everything. The hospital record, the memory, what my parents had done. I didn't ambush her or try to convince her. I just gave her the facts and said she deserved to know before she walked down the aisle with a man she might not actually know. She called my brother that same day and asked him directly. He broke down and confessed. She left him. She got a lawyer for full custody of her daughters and cut him out of their lives. My parents are treating me like I committed the ultimate betrayal. My mom said I destroyed our family and our brother's future for something that happened when he was a teenager. My dad won't speak to me at all. My brother has called me crying, begging me to tell his fiancée, ex-fiancée now, that I made it up. I haven't answered. I'm 22 years old, and my entire family has closed ranks against me, but those two little girls are safe now. And the worst part is, I don't feel victorious. I feel hollowed out. I feel like I finally understand what my mother felt choosing my brother over my safety all those years ago. That anguish of knowing you're breaking something to save something else. The difference is, I chose those children. I chose them without even knowing them, and I know I would do it again. There's something about stories like this that cuts deeper than the usual Reddit drama. Cycles of protection, each generation thinking they're saving someone by staying quiet. But silence isn't protection. It's just a different kind of betrayal. The fact that your mom's first response was damage control for him, not comfort for you, tells you everything about where her priorities lie. I'm so sorry. What does she owe strangers? Everything. What does she owe herself? She already knows the answer. And that is the last story for today.